Have you ever really stopped to think about how much school has changed? I mean, it's not just about swapping textbooks for iPads. We're talking about a complete top-to-bottom revolution over the last 70 years in how we learn, what we learn, and even why we learn. So let's dive into this incredible journey from the old school blackboard right into the cloud.
Just picture it, 1955. School was all about the teacher at the front of the room, dispensing facts. It was teacher-centric, built on memorization, with pretty much zero technology. Fast forward to today, and that whole model has been flipped on its head. Now it's all about the student. It's about critical thinking, using amazing tech like AI and VR, and learning in spaces that can adapt to you. The difference is, truly, night and day.
So, to really get how we got here, we're going to take a little trip through time. We'll start back in the super-structured world of the 1950s classroom. Then, we'll look at the new ideas that started to shake things up, witness the absolute explosion of the digital revolution, check in on what it's actually like to be a student today, and finally, we'll take a peek at what's coming next.
All right, let's start our journey back in the 1950s. You got to remember, this was a post-war world, big on structure and discipline. And schools, well, they were designed to reflect that, to create a uniform, knowledgeable, and reliable workforce.
So what did that classroom actually look like? Well, it was incredibly structured. The curriculum was totally rigid. Math, science, literature, period. Teachers lectured from the front and students listened. Technology was basically a chalkboard. Discipline, it was strict, sometimes even physical. And parents, they pretty much stayed out of it. They trusted the system completely. The whole idea was to give everyone the same base of knowledge. And the main tool in that system was rote memorization. Now, it's easy for us to kind of look down on that today, right? Just mindless repetition. But what's fascinating is that the idea behind it was solid. Neuroscience actually tells us that drilling basic facts, like your multiplication tables, can help rewire the brain to tackle more complex problems down the line. It was seen as the absolute foundation for everything else. And the philosophy driving all this? It was called essentialism. The core belief was simple. There's a body of essential knowledge, the basics, that every single student has to learn to become a productive member of society. It was all about facts, hard work, and a deep respect for authority.
But of course, things couldn't stay that way forever. New ideas started bubbling to the surface, questioning this whole teacher-first model. People began to ask a really important question. Is the goal of school to just fill a student's head with facts, like filling a bucket, or is it to light a fire of curiosity?
And a powerful answer to that question came from a new idea, progressivism. This completely flipped the script. Suddenly, the focus wasn't on the teacher or the strict curriculum, it was on the child, the whole child. Learning, they argued, should be active, it should be hands-on, and it should be driven by a student's own questions. It's all about learning by doing. John Dewey, who was a huge voice in this movement, put it perfectly. He said, schools shouldn't just teach kids about democracy, they should be democratic places. Places where students learn about freedom and teamwork by actually living it every day.
And if you thought that was a big leap, well, some people took it even further. Thinkers like A.S. Neal championed a form of existentialism in education. His whole philosophy was that we aren't born with a fixed personality. We create ourselves through our choices. So at his famous school, Summerhill, students had almost total freedom to choose what they learned, and even if they learned on any given day. They were defining their own path.
So you've got these big philosophical debates happening, but at the same time, a technological tidal wave was building on the horizon, a force that was about to change everything and push us toward student-centered learning faster than anyone could have imagined. Of course, I'm talking about the internet.
The internet didn't just tweak things, it completely rewired the classroom. All of a sudden, knowledge wasn't just in the library, it was everywhere, instantly. It gave us tools to work with people on the other side of the planet, technology that could adapt to how you learn personally, and research abilities that were pure science fiction just a generation before.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. As this teacher on Reddit points out, tech made really complex subjects way more accessible. With tools like graphing apps and software, concepts that used to be reserved for university are now totally standard in high school. The key here is that technology didn't just deliver old lessons in a new way. It fundamentally changed what was even possible to teach.
So we have these new philosophies, we have this game-changing tech, but how does it all come together for the person right at the center of it all, the student? What is it actually like to be learning in today's world, with all its new pressures and opportunities?
Well, let's start with something we can all relate to: money. The financial world for students has been turned upside down.
A parent who went to university around 1980, they probably had grants to live on and paid zero tuition. Today's student, they're facing staggering levels of debt and this immense pressure to get a job that makes it all worthwhile.
And you can see that financial pressure translating directly into academic pressure. Get this, back in the 70s, about a third of students graduated with top honors. Today, that number is 70%. The competition is just on another level. The bar for what's considered success has been raised sky high.
And this pressure cooker environment, it starts early. As one teacher put it, their fifth graders are tackling math problems that they didn't see until high school. The entire curriculum has gotten tougher, way earlier.
So if you add it all up, this is the new normal. There's a huge focus on STEM, but you also see totally new subjects that would have been unheard of a few decades ago, like computer coding, mental health awareness, even podcasting. Classrooms are way more inclusive, and from the moment they start, there's this constant underlying pressure to build a resume that'll stand out in a crowded job market.
So this all leads us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. Where is this train headed? In a world that's changing faster than ever, how is education itself evolving to get students ready for a future that honestly we can't even predict?
Well, according to sources like Forbes, the old playbook is basically broken. You know, the idea that you get a 4-year degree and then work in the same career for 40 years, that's over. Instead, we're going to see a huge surge in things like apprenticeships and on-the-job training. And with AI filtering resumes, your personal network, who you know, is going to become more important than ever.
And this all points to a massive shift in hiring itself, towards something called experience-based hiring. Basically, employers are moving away from just looking at your degree or a list of skills. They want proof. They want to see evidence that you've actually done the work, not just studied for it. It's why things like internships and work placements are becoming so incredibly critical. And this brings us right back to the biggest question, the one that ties this whole story together. In a world where AI can answer almost any question, solve complex equations, and even write a decent essay, what skills are we left with? What is it that truly matters? What should we be teaching the next generation to prepare them for a future we can barely even imagine? It's a question that's going to define the next great evolution of education.